Continuing on with the TMCC Library Open Genealogy Lab Outstanding Guest Speaker Series, today we are pleased to welcome back Irene B. Walters, librarian at the Houston Public Library's Family History Center in Texas. Today's presentation is titled, What Can I Do with My Stuff? Donating Your Genealogy to a Research Facility. You've amassed a large collection of genealogy research. What to do with it? This presentation will show ways to prepare your genealogy research and materials to donate them to a facility and how to find that facility. Various research facilities such as libraries, archives, and historical societies will be discussed. So I would like to offer a warm virtual welcome back to Irene.
Thank you, Sue. Hello, everybody. Today, as Sue said, I'm talking about what can I do with my stuff, donating your genealogy to a research facility. I'm Irene B. Walters. Right now, I'm a librarian too in the special collection of the Family History Research Center at the Clayton Library campus, part of Houston Public Library System. And this will be my last talk as a librarian too at Clayton Library, because tomorrow I start as a librarian 3, the assistant manager of Clayton Library. Houston Public Library's mission statement is that we link people to the world, and our unofficial slogan here at Clayton Library is that we are linking you to the world of your ancestors. So, where to donate your materials? When you have worked in genealogy for a while, you have a lot of stuff and a lot of papers, files, computer files. And what you want to do when you start thinking about where to donate it is you want to find a suitable library, archive, historical society, or genealogy society to donate your material to. Usually, the best place is to start in the area where your ancestors lived, because a library or historical society or genealogy society for that location has the most people that will want to see your material. And then you start expanding outward from that town into that county, to the state, to the region. You also want to look at repositories that collect nationally, such as Clayton Library or Allen County Public Library in Fort Wayne, Indiana. But don't forget international collections, because your ancestors, most likely, at least some of them, came to the place in America that they lived from somewhere else. They might have come, like my family, from France and Ireland. So when I work on material for my mom's side, I may end up donating some of it back into France for them to see where people from those areas went to in America. You also want to look at the repository's mission statement and policies to see what that repository is really for, to see if they would take your material. You always want to contact a repository before you donate to them. Call them, write them, or email them before you just show up with a donation. You may show up on a day that all of a sudden they're closed for a week or 2 weeks or a month for renovations or something like that. Or they might not have anybody there able to take the material the day that you come. So you want to let them know ahead of time. Now, questions to consider about the repository. What is that repository's mission? Why does it even exist? What do they give to their area? Are they just a history of something, or are they the history of the area? How narrow is their focus? Are they one family, one town, or one county? Your family may not be the family that they collect for, so they might not be able to take or want to take your family's history. If they're for one town and your family is really for from the whole county and not just from that one town, they again might not have the ability to showcase what you have collected. If they're one county and your family was only in that county for a short period of time, again, it may not fit their mission statement. And then also, but look at their mission statement and see, is it locked down or is it free flowing? Do they kind of roll with the punches and roll with the donations and change what they do? Also, look at their policies. Do they have a collection development policy that says they only collect material that is um, first original material, or do they only collect published materials? What is their gift policy? Do they even take gifts at all? Because some places just don't have the ability to take a gift and deal with it. They don't have the money to do things with it. They don't have the space. How do they handle restrictions on a gift? A lot of times people, when they want to give their material, because our family history contains so much material about living individuals, um, sometimes the donors want to restrict access to that material for a certain number of years. And is that repository able to handle that restriction and keep your material separate for that number of years before it becomes part of the general collection? Do they have a digitization policy, and what do you want to have digitized from the material that you're giving? Do you want any of it digitized, all of it digitized, just material on deceased individuals? And what also is their policy on deaccessioning gifts or weeding gifts? What do they do? Here at Clayton Library, when we try not to deaccession material, but when we get a new copy of a book that we already have, if the old one is falling apart, then we'll trade it out and put the new one on the shelf. So the old one might have been the gift, the physical gift from your family, and the new one is from someone else's family. Um, what happens with those deaccession gifts? Ours go to the Houston Public Library's Friends group, and they're the ones that are allowed to sell the material. Usually with us, if it's been deaccessioned because of condition, it actually ends up being destroyed and going to the landfill or to recycling, because it's just not in a condition where they could sell it and get more money. What is the repository's collection? What do they actually collect? Do they collect for the area that your ancestors lived? Do they collect published materials only, so things that are already published in book form? Do they collect manuscripts? Because all of us, in our head at least, have the manuscript of our genealogy of that book that we want to create. Would they take the manuscript form of your genealogy or not? Or will they say you have to have it published before they would take it? Can they take vertical file materials, which are loose sheets of paper? We all have a ton of loose sheets of paper. And does the repository have vertical files that they can put them in or not? Here at Clayton Library, we used to collect vertical file materials, but we no longer have space to add more filing cabinets, so we've stopped adding to our vertical files. Also, does the repository take digital materials? Can they take your computer hard drive that has your genealogy on it and do something with it? Can they take an ebook copy of your family history? Also, consider the repository's customer base. Who do they actually serve? Do they serve just the local people? Is it people from all over the state, the region, national or international customers? Do they serve just locals, or do they also serve tourists who come to their area, or do they serve researchers? What you would most of the time be looking for is a place that will have customers that are researchers coming there to use the material that they have in their collection, and because that's why we want to pass our donated our materials on, is so that someone would use it and get some use out of it. Do they only have customers that are in-house visitors, or can they handle digital visitors? So do they digitize material and put it up online? Do they handle email um, questions from people and scan things, send it to them, or photocopy things and send it to them in the mail? How do they handle remote non-digital users, those that might send a letter and asking for a photocopy from a book or from your materials? So, what do they do with their customers? And what are the abilities of the repository? Can they physically handle your donation? Do they have the room to keep your donation in their facility? Do they have the staff? Because when you have collected filing boxes of things, for, 3-ring binders, different types of materials, when you give it to a repository, it doesn't just like magically appear on the shelves. The staff have to go through, they have to catalog it, they have to put it in as part of the collection, stamping it with the collection's possession stamps, labeling it, things like that. So, do they have the staff that can handle doing that with what type of material you're donating? Do they have the money to pay the staff? Do they have the money to buy acid-free folders to put things in, or shelving to put the stuff up on, filing cabinets, whatever they need? Do they have the money for that? And do they have the time? They might have staff and money, and they might physically have the space to do it, but they might be at the time so overwhelmed with other gifts or with other things that they might not have the time to be able to handle your gift at the time that you're wanting to give it to them. They might have to put you off for a little while, or it might be that they would take the gift and it'll be a while before they get to your gift. So mm, I've had lots of people donate something here to Clayton Library and then wonder why it's not on the shelf in less than a week. And it's like, because they want to bring in somebody to show the material to. And it's like, well, it takes more than that because we get a lot of gifts at once. So, possible places to donate. There's further information about each of these places on the handout, and each of these is just a suggestion to donate. But there's the Genealogy Center of the Allen County Public Library in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Allen County does take a lot of material. They collect nationally, and they have been able to, up to this point, take vertical file materials and add it to their collection, and are still taking vertical file materials. The LDS Family History Library, or Family Search Library in Salt Lake City, Utah, they take all sorts of materials and add it as long as it has some form of genealogy focus to it, or history focus that can be used for genealogy and family history research. And they can take it digitally or physically. The New England Historic Genealogical Society, if your family is from the New England area, they would be a nice place to try to donate to and see what their um, and to give back information about people who had lived in the New England area. The University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Now, your relatives may not have lived in North Carolina. They may not have gone to University of North Carolina and Chapel Hill. This is on here more as an idea of looking at universities across the country to see what they will accept for local history, state history, family history. There's a lot of universities that do have collections and colleges, not just universities, that have collections of genealogy type materials and that you can do research in their materials for that, and you want to look at what they ones that your relatives went to. You might have a relative that was the first woman to go through a certain uh, course at that university or college, someone that went to the state teachers college and that you want to donate, you'd like to donate information about them to that place. Looking at the University of North Carolina Chapel Hill's website, they have some really nice stuff up about what type of donations they can accept and how to donate it, where to donate it, and they have a couple of different places on campus that take donations. Then, of course, there's the Houston Public Library's Family History Research Center at the Clayton Library campus where I work. And we do accept all sorts of donations. At least half of the material in this library has been donated, probably well over half, but it's hard to quantify it because we've been around so long. Um, but there's some things we can take and some things we can't take anymore because we just don't have the room. So, what to donate itself? But because remember, giving is not just about making a donation, it's about making a difference. So, what to donate? The best items, and of course, it depends on the repository, but the best items, the ones that almost every one of the different types of repositories I've said would take, are published books that the repository does not own. Um, so if you have books on the history of an area, the history of the state, and like that, if they fall within the collection development policy of that repository and they already don't have a copy, many repositories will take that and add it to their collection. Most repositories will take original documents, as long as they're not in a condition that they're falling apart, because they might not be able to keep them archivally. But original documents are really good items for many repositories. If it is rare or unique, that it's kind of things that there aren't that many of and like that, depends on the repository again, if they can physically keep that rare, unique item in an archivally safe environment. But the the manuscript of genealogy, things like that. Of course, your completed genealogy or a copy of your manuscript of your genealogy, most places would take. Possible items, things that they may or may not take, are of course, unpublished manuscripts. Sometimes a repository can take them, sometimes they can't, so that's harder to do. Original letters, memoirs, or diaries, sometimes these can take up so much room that the library or repository or archives might not have the room to take them. Um, Sometimes sometimes they can take them and they have lots of room to put them. Labeled photographs. You'll see on the next slide about unlabeled photographs, but if they take photographs, they usually they would want them to be labeled, because unlabeled photographs are just so hard to deal with and figure out what to store them in, what way do they go together with these other photographs they happen to be with or not? Did they just get jumbled together? If they're labeled, you can go through and figure out how to store them together or not to so that you can so that people can use them with their when they're researching their genealogy. Professional or business papers. Here at Clayton, we have material that is the Fogle West Funeral Home and Boulevard Funeral Home original records for people that went whose funerals went through those two funeral homes. And there's lots of different places that will take business or professional papers like that that might help somebody do their genealogy. And then genealogical information such as charts and like that, there lots of places can take those and put them in their collection. We have a map cabinet, which is large flat drawers that we can put larger genealogy charts in, so that they're laid out flat and keep them as part of our collection. And we do still take genealogical charts. Things that are iffy, and again, it depends on the repository, but published books the repository already owns. Here at Clayton, we will take them and we give them to our friends group, and our friends group sells them and buys us books that we don't own with that money. But a lot of places don't have the people and the resources to be able to take those and deal with them and do that. So they might not want books that the repository already owns. Um, Copies of letters, memoirs, or diaries. Photocopies of those letters, memoirs, and diaries. The place might take them, might prefer the photocopies versus the originals because if the originals are very fragile, but they also might not want things that are copies of them because sometimes when you try to photocopy them, it's just so hard to get them readable. And sometimes photocopies just fade over time. Unlabeled photographs, as I've already stated, it's hard to deal with unlabeled photographs and know how to keep them and like that. A big one that's kind of iffy are family Bibles. There are repositories that take family Bibles and they will take the whole Bible. There are more repositories that won't take a family Bible because 99% of the pages are the Bible, and there's only basically 1% is the little family information pages in the middle of the Bible, and so that takes up a lot of room for 2 to 3 pages of information. And, like, here at Clayton, we just don't have shelf space to store family Bibles. I have heard, um, as of the last time I did this talk, the DAR library in Washington, DC will take family Bibles. Um, I have not heard of any other location that would take them for anywhere in America. Some historical society locations across the country will take ones for families that lived in that area. I know my historical society back in New York from the county I'm from does have some family Bibles in the collection. They have, last I saw, they had about 8 or 9. I don't know if they take any more or have added any more to their collection. Then one of the really big iffy materials are genealogy notebooks and binders. Genealogy notebooks are very hard to accept by a regular genealogy library because there's no title page. They're full of photocopies of published materials, so they could be violating copyright by accepting all those published copies of published materials. A lot of them have odd-sized pages or stapled pages in there. Staff would have to go through and unstaple the pages, take out paper clips, things like that. There can also be loose materials like photographs in there where those photos would fall out of the binder and then they're lost because you don't know where they go back into. You don't know which binder they might go back into. And if the material is in sleeve binders that help keep it from falling out, a 3-ring binder takes up a wider footprint on the shelf than the material inside it. So, like, we send ours out to be hardbound, and sleeve protectors, they cannot bind with it in a sleeve protector. We have to take the material out of the sleeve protectors. An acceptable genealogy notebook has a title page. If you have a location that will take your genealogy notebook, make a title page for it with the family names as part of the title. You as the author, if you are the one who put the notebook together, or whoever, if it's grandma, Aunt Jean, mom, whoever put their name as the author. A date so you know that, okay, there's no material in this notebook that happened after 2024, so that they can, when they catalog it, they can say, okay, it was created and compiled up until 2024 or whatever year. That if Aunt Jean died in 1999, that nothing has been added to this notebook since 1999, and a location that it was kind of published. Where did the person who put it together live, so that it gets an idea of maybe where some of the material is from. It might not be where any of the material is from, but if you have photographs or memorabilia, scan them in, then print them out on sheets that are the same size as the other pages in there, and so that they're not pasted in. That way they don't fall out when you tip the notebook sideways, and make everything the same size sheet of paper. And it would be absolutely wonderful if you could make a table of contents and or an index for it. I know creating an index is asking a lot, but a table of contents of saying the first, 10 pages are the Smith family, the next 10 are the Johnson family, the next 50 are the Bush family. At least something of what it is for the table of contents. When you're donating, sorry, my throat was getting dry. It is always helpful for any repository to give a monetary gift along with your genealogy. That monetary gift can help pay for binding the manuscripts or binding the notebooks. It can help pay for archival materials if the repository, if it is loose materials that they're going to put in their vertical files, they may, buy a couple of boxes of acid-free file folders to put the material in. It can help pay for storage items like new vertical file cabinets. And it can also help pay for digitizing materials, because digitizing materials is not absolutely free. You do have to pay for the electricity, you do have to pay for keeping your software and your hardware up to date. What not to donate. Absolute no-nos that repositories can seldom accept or will not accept are photocopies of published materials. Unless it is a item that is definitely out of copyright pre-1923, it is, the material could still be in copyright if if it's post 1923. If it is a partial item, if it is only half of a book or one chapter of a book that was an a book from the 1890s, it does not really help the collection to have a bunch of partial items in it. Printouts from the internet. Unfortunately, yes, stuff on the internet is copyrighted, and two, the stuff changes so often, and it's very seldom says where anything comes from, so it's very hard to accept printouts from the internet. Information on living individuals. If it is written up in the book that you write and donate, that's one thing, but um, copies or original birth certificates, death certificates, marriage certificates, not death certificates, but marriage certificates or birth certificates or other things, school records for living individuals. Most places will try not to put that on their shelves until a certain length of time has gone by, so that people, it's assumed that they are old enough to be um, like yearbooks and stuff, things like that. They don't get digitized until after everybody in them, including the ones that were like in seventh grade, when it's a 7 through 12 yearbook. Um, the ones in seventh grade would also be adults, because you don't want to put information about children out there. And also, absolute no-nos are hazardous items, things that are bug-laden, mouse-defiled, or moldy. If Aunt Jean died in 1997 and you've had her stuff out in your garage since then, those are so full of bugs and spiders and like that, it just freaks out the staff. So you want to not have a reputation as the one who brings these really old, full of mold things to a library to donate. Um, because a lot of times that stuff unfortunately does have to go right through the building out towards the trash can to be, or the dumpster to be gone through, and is there anything that we could save out of there or not? You want to shape up your materials before showing up with a donation. You want to declutter your materials to increase the usability of your material. Toss out duplicate and unnecessary items. If you have you'd copied material for everybody with with your last name, and you've gone through and found out like half of it is not your actual family, then the repository is not going to know that, and that is unnecessary. It just puts a burden on the next person to go through your material, and they have to then determine, oh, these sheets have nothing to do with the family. You want to summarize photocopied material. A two-page handout or one-page typed up material from what you found in the book, you might photocopy 2 pages out of a book, because the paragraph that's at the bottom of one page and the top of the next page is what is on your family. If you type up something saying from the history of Oglethorpe County, Georgia, page 21 and 22, and type up that one paragraph, And then um, the next thing down is the next book that you found that has something else. That is much more succinct and easier for someone to follow than to go through trying to find out what on these 2 pages was the information that you thought was important to photocopy. Organize your materials. Organization is not a dirty word. It's a crucial step because it shows everyone, it allows them to see what your vision of the material was. Um, it aids in acceptance of the donation because the better organized your materials, the easier it is for the repository to say that they'll accept it or that they'll have the time, staff, money, resources to accept it. And it increases the speed of the integration of the material into the repository. If you have all of the published books together in boxes and then the unpublished material in another box, they can quickly go through the published material, see if they have it, see if they don't, see if they want to add it, go through doing the stuff to add it, and then turn to your unpublished material and go through it. And it speeds everything up. If you are don't find a place to donate. One way to donate is in person. Another way is to put it in your will. And there is something called My Genealogical Will for Preserving My Family History, a genealogy codicil to your last will and testament. It was one of the 2 handouts I sent Sue to give you all. You can also find it on your one handout. You can find a copy on the web that you can do. And the other way to donate is to let your family know of your wishes, um, not just in your will, but letting your family know. So this is a copy of the genealogical will and the information that you would fill in for that. You also, if you donate in person though, if you donate yourself, your one of the reasons to donate in person is so your wishes for the material are followed. It allows for you to know that your research will live on. It allows you to say what you want done with it, how you want it. If you had a restriction to hold it for 5 years before it gets out there for everybody to use or whatever. You can arrange a drop-off time when you donate in person. That allows for enough staff and resources to take the donation. If you have 5 heavy boxes and you come without arranging it ahead of time, you might come on the day that there's only one little old lady at the historical society and she can't lift the boxes and help bring them in. But if you allow them to set up a time for you to do it, they might have a couple of people that are younger and stronger to help carry the material in. It also allows you to fill out the repository's forms so that um, you can write it off on your taxes if you need to, and the repository will know what exactly came in together and to be able to reply to you about the donation. But um, I said something about putting it in your last will and testament, but there's another reason to not only wait for that, by letting your family know before the will reading. Um, One of the reasons that you want to let your family know what you want to do is so that your research isn't gone before you are. If something happens to you and you end up in a nursing home or you end up in a rehab facility for a long time and your house has to get sold to pay for stuff, cleaned out, whatever, your genealogy is part of that, and it may just be gone. And then they read in the will, oh, I wanted it to go to cousin Sophie because she does genealogy also, or I wanted it to go to this place and I'd already arranged with them to get it after I died. Well, the will, if it's only part of the will, no one knows that until your will's read after you die. And so if you didn't tell the family, it might be gone before that happens. When you're doing when you tell the family, you might get an unexpected research buddy to help you add more to the material. You might find some family members that'll help you go through some of the material. They don't want to do all the research, but they'll help you go through some of it. They get excited about going through the pictures. They get excited about going through some of the other material and want to help you digitize it or type up some material. So you might get some research buddies. You might get one or you might get several. And also, this helps your family see why it's important to you. Why did Aunt Irene spend all this time and all these years looking at information about dead people? What was it that was so important to her that um, she did all this research and had us all these boxes of materials? Remember to publish something before you lose your chance because everyone has a story. Every one of our ancestors has a story, and every one of us has a story. So if you publish something before you lose your chance, that helps your genealogy live on. Doesn't have to be a whole book. It can be a journal article, a blog, a family newsletter. You can do your online tree in Ancestry or Family Search. You can do a small booklet, a social media page, or record an oral history, record something with StoryCorps. Um, as Sue was talking about earlier, do something with your material. Remember to share digitally, but legally make sure it is something that you have the copyright to or is out of copyright that you share. Um, Pictures, family films or videos, family audio tapes or write-ups from newspapers into an online tree, copies to relatives on social media pages, wherever you share it. The little image there above that wording is our family pictures of mine that I have the copy that are either way out of copyright or I have the copyright to that I have put up on Family Search. And it's an old one because I've added more than that that are parts of my own family. I have not done ones that are not parts of my family yet. And in closing, investigate where to donate and what they will accept. Contact your preferred repositories before you go. Um, Organize your materials, publish something, and share your research. And this has been Irene B. Walters, currently Librarian 2 at Clayton Library, the Family History Research Center at the Clayton Library campus in Houston, Texas. And this has been donating your research materials, finding a repository to donate to. Thank you.
Thank you, Irene. What
Yeah.
I'll do is I'll open up the platform here to the students. Please go ahead and if you have a question for Irene, unmute your microphone, but please leave your camera off and ask the question. And then please turn your microphone off because we don't want to catch any background noise in the recording. So go ahead, give it a few seconds here. I've got a few questions while I'm waiting for the first one to come in. First of all, congratulations on your promotion. That's really exciting
Thank
news.
you. Yeah, it was really fast. We published the our old assistant manager left at the end of June. They published it, interviewed me, I was interviewed on a Friday, and on the Monday, I was informed that I had been recommended. I had to do my paperwork, and it's like 2 weeks ago today I was interviewed. So it was really fast that I got the promotion. But I have been here 27 years, and as my manager and I were talking yesterday, he said, I stepped up big time since the assistant manager left and was doing all sorts of things. And so it was, I was already acting as the assistant manager and did a lot of stuff. And so he's glad that I'm here.
Well, that's wonderful. I know you're going to do very well. So exciting
Thank
news.
you.
But I wanted to kind of know, have you personally donated any materials? You have any family history materials?
I have not donated them yet. I have used donated collections though. I had a great aunt, my mom's dad's baby sister, had left in her will, she left her to the historical society back home. They could come in and take anything they wanted from her place. And I found actually the picture of the family that was up there that I said I put on Family Search was a family picture of her older brothers and sisters and her parents at the end of the 1800s that was part of what they donated or what had been donated to the Historical Society. And I got to take a picture of it at the Historical Society and have it. And it was my grandpa is in that picture as let's see, the later one, he's like 16. This one, he was about 10, I think. So it's like the earliest picture I've ever seen of my grandpa, and he was born in 1880.
Wow.
So that was really cool. So I've used donated collections in my research because that great aunt was into genealogy, so they also had some of the genealogy that she had done. And I've handled tons of donated collections here at Clayton to catalog them and so forth. But my own material I have not donated yet. I definitely need to organize it and put it together in a more cohesive form.
So you have
I
the
was
original
going,
catalog, all that the material that comes in. Wow.
Yes.
Well, my heart goes out to you.
Yeah. Well, it'll soon be somebody else doing it because now I get to do collection development with the new job. So it'll
Well, I
be,
hope they like cataloging.
yeah.
well, I was just going to ask you about the library. I'm
Hmm.
also a librarian in special collections in Jacksonville, Florida.
Okay.
And so I was just going to ask you if you do get donations of genealogical, and you just kind of sort of answered that you do.
Hmm.
Do you set any sort of parameters for what they can and can't, or how it has to be organized, or?
Yes, we do. It didn't we didn't used to have the parameters. I've been here 27 years now, and the parameters were much looser in the olden days, the 27 years ago. But now we don't have the ability to take the loose materials anymore. It Now it needs to be a published book or a manuscript form of a book. It needs to be something we can put on the shelf. And so with the genealogy notebooks, they have to have the title page with the information about author and date and like that. And we do ask that they go through and create a bit of a table of contents. Um, we and But other than that, and that it be more of like on one family than every bit of the family that they're doing. Um, you know, like like with me, I'm a Walters. My dad was Walters. My mom was Bush. And if I had that in separate notebooks instead of like all smushed together in one, instead of it being straight my ancestors, be two different sides of the family, we ask that. Um, other than that, we do still take some microfilm and microfiche if people have that, because we still have room to add that into the collection. But we've gotten, in the 27 years I've been here, there's only recently has it been where not every day we get somebody donating something. We used to get three to 10 donations a day when I for years when I started, and that could be one thing to 5 boxes, or we've had different times when somebody dies that we've gotten up to 40 boxes of materials at one time. That was a fun one. We had to drive to the place and load up 3 different staff members' cars with it.
The dedicated librarians that we are.
Mhm.
Okay, that was a good question, Christy. Any other questions from the class? Okay, well, while they're thinking about it, I kind of have a couple of questions that I was thinking about during your presentation.
Okay.
Have you ever considered digitizing your vertical files to allow more room?
Yes, we are in the process right now of digitizing them and putting them on the Houston Public Library Digital Archive. We're not digitizing and getting rid of the material or anything, and we're the way they started the digitization project, they're not digitizing everything in the folder, which I did not understand at the time, but I had so much stuff of my own to work on that I did not try to argue that didn't make sense to me. I now, with the new job, will actually be over the digitization, so we may go back and revisit that and see what could be done differently if we want to add and do everything that's in the file folder, because the way our vertical files are, the family vertical files we have, the material in one folder, even though it's like the Smith folder, it's not necessarily all the same Smith family. It's what we got over the years that had the last name Smith. So it could be 10 Smith families, it could be 40, because I know we have like 3 huge 3-inch thick folders on Smith. But on any family, it could be, each sheet could be a different one of that last name, or they could be just one family. It's hard to tell the way that was collected over the years. And that was collected from, I think, from all the way to the 40s up until close to 2006, I think, 7, that we stopped putting stuff in the cabinets.
Okay, great. One of the people here in class today mentioned in the chat box that the DAR library also accepts donations. And you had touched on Bibles, about how some library repositories don't want the whole Bible. They just want the page out of the Bible.
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of put a warning about that, because I have taken a class through the DAR about Bible records. And actually, the DAR wants the whole Bible because they want that publishing information, the title page verso, the title page and the title page verso, because it helps prove the date of the information inside the Bible that's handwritten. Like obviously, if there's a birth date from 1880, but the Bible was published in 1965, then obviously you know that information wasn't recorded at the time of which it happened. So just a bit of a warning about tearing that page out of the family Bible. Make sure, if you're going to do that, make sure to keep the publisher information, because if you're going to donate that or try to use it on a DAR application, they're going to want that information. So save the whole Bible if you can. There are a lot of places that will preserve the Bible for you. The DAR library being one of them, but of course, Bible Rescue, there's all kinds of different organizations that will help you preserve the family Bible. Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, I had a question. I'll bring up the one I did earlier in class. I have a locket. It has some gold in it that belonged to my great-grandmother, who is historically significant ancestor of a famous family in Maine. So any offspring of mine would have no interest in this item whatsoever. But who should I pass it on to? I mean, it's not paper, so it can't go to they have the family archives at Bates College in Maine, but they don't want to lock it.
Possibly a historical society. I know the historical society back home with the stuff that they got from my great aunt, they actually have my great grandma's wedding ring there as part of
Okay,
the collection.
that's a good idea.
So try a historical society where where the person lived and uh, worked and like that to see see if they want it in
Okay.
that area. I would try them.
So they might keep things on display or
Mhm.
keep them safe for
Yeah,
posterity.
yeah.
Good.
And if they have a photo or a painting or something of this
Family
from this
heirloom.
family, they they might display it next to that,
Yeah.
things like that.
Okay, I enjoyed your presentation. I took a
Thank
lot
you.
of notes.
Good.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Give it a few seconds. Let me just check the chat box to make sure that there's something in the chat box. Let's see here. Holly wanted to let everyone know that before she died, we donated all my mother's 4-H ribbons to the County Historical Society where she grew up.
Hey, Suzanne, I have a question. It's Kathy. What I have access to is a number of original letters that are written back and forth between family members. This is all in the 1830s, you know, in that beautiful script
Okay.
handwriting. Do people want, and this would be, it's a tiny county in Georgia. Do they want things like that? Or they want that digitized instead of the beautiful original handwriting? Because that's what I've got is the letters.
Yeah. It depends. Some of them do still want the original paper and some want the digital copy. So I would start with, if you wanted to donate it, I would start with checking with that county and the surrounding counties, historical societies, if they have any sort of historical society museum in the area. See if they want that, if they want a digital copy of it. They might want both. They might want it and they might digitize it themselves to put it up online. And then move out from that into the larger county or larger state material, or like with me from New York, we have regional um, libraries and archives and regional um, museums. Like there's the Blue Mountain Lake Adirondack Museum that used to have my great grandfather's anvil and a bunch of material from his son, who was also a blacksmith. And they ended up giving it to a different regional museum to put, because it was the county we're from is outside the edge of the Adirondacks, really only a little piece of the county is. So they gave it to the Oneida County Museum to which covers more my county, which is not Oneida County, but it's Lewis County, New York. And so now his anvil and the pictures and stuff that came from his son are now in a different museum.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate
Mhm.
it.
DLB put it in the chat box. I have a painting of my husband's family home that was done many years ago. The house is now part of the town's historical buildings. You've given me the idea to donate the painting to the town's historical society. Now to contact them to see if they're interested.
Yep.
So I
Great.
have another question.
Okay.
My father was in World War II. He joined even before Pearl Harbor. And he kept a lot of little bits and things. Matchbook covers, tickets to USO things when his ship was in New York. Even on the onion type paper, the plans of the day for his ship, which has miraculously made it all these years. And so, it's not really, other than, hey, that's what was going on. There's not really any genealogical worth to it, but it is artifacts from World War II. And I've thought often of whether or not a museum dedicated to World War II would want something like that, or even like the Naval Archives. Do you have any idea?
They might. I know the Navy is working on getting all sorts of information about people who were in the Navy, especially in like World War II and like that. And there's also the World War II Museum in New Orleans. They would, they could do some sort of display and turn it into a traveling display with that type of materials that, this is what a day in the life of your World War II soldier or sailor was like. So, yeah, I would contact them, contact both the Navy Naval Museums and the World War II Museum. It might end up being that the stuff is split between different ones. Um, I would make sure I kept a digital copy of
Oh,
all of it
yes.
before, and the same with the letters, before I donated it to anybody. But yeah, they very well both could take it. I was looking into some stuff about the Navy just earlier this year because I was going back home for a family reunion of my mom's parents' descendants. And my grandpa, he was born in 1880 because my generations are very huge in my family. My mom's one of her older brothers is still alive, and he just turned 100 in January. And so I wanted to talk to him, and he was in the Navy in World War II.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to talk to Uncle Clem about his naval experiences and like that. It was a semi-frustrating interview because his favorite thing, his whole life, he's never been one to talk and is always, well, I don't know, ask her about his wife. And it's like, okay, Uncle Clem. So we started going through pictures and he, it's like, oh yeah, I know who's in this picture. It's your your mom and her sisters and her mother, your grandma and my aunt didn't know who one of the women was. And I looked at it and I'm like, oh, that's Aunt Seal. You remember your Aunt Seal, Uncle Clem, right? Da da da. And all of a sudden he starts talking about her. And it was I had to do it that way. But I was looking into like if I got a good interview with him, where to do a copy of it. And if you do get interviews of military personnel, the not National Archives, Library of Congress does have a thing to interview military personnel and donate the material, the oral history to them. And the Naval Museum also wants that type of stuff. So I definitely would look into that.
Yeah, he unfortunately passed away in 2003, and I wish I had recorded his stories.
Well,
Isn't there a museum of the Pacific?
I believe there is. I don't know where it is off the top of my head, but I believe
Okay.
there is one also. Yeah,
And
and that would be for my Uncle Bob. Anything that we had from him, that would be where that type of stuff we would want to donate it. So,
yeah, of his two ships, both of them were brand new launched, and I have the program from the christening launching of them.
oh, cool.
One was like 10 days before Pearl Harbor, and the other was in, I think, 44 out of Orange, Texas, which is how he met my
Okay.
mom. So uh, that's, to me, all of that was really pretty cool. So, but I wish I had his stories, but
hmm
George
thank
just
you.
put in the chat box that the Pacific War Museum is the www.pacificwarmuseum.org. So thank you, George.
Okay, cool. Thanks,
And
George.
also, your topic about military memorabilia, it touched a lot of people's hearts because in the chat box, DLB put down, my husband's father was a World War II pilot. We donated his pilot's log to a local World War II museum. And then George put down, my father was a POW during World War II, and my mom donated some of his items to the POW Museum in Andersonville, Georgia.
Yeah,
So
so there's lots of places for military stuff. And like that great aunt actually from back home, she was an army captain in World War II. She was an army nurse. And so there's a few military things of hers that are at the local museum, the county museum back home. Uh, because like she was shot during World War II in Italy and like that. So she's, but one of the big things is, a picture of her in her captain's uniform and like that. They have a copy of that.
okay, any other questions from the class? Give it a few seconds here. Okay, well, it looks like you've answered everyone's questions. So Irene, once again, congratulations on your promotion. I'm so happy for you. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
I hope you won't be a stranger.
No, I mean, I'm still here at the same location. Just, I'm actually sitting in what will be my office. Because I was going to go to the other building and it's raining today. I'm like, no, I'm not walking across. But I wanted to say something about the databases you talked about at the beginning that might not be getting a lot of use. That 19th century US newspapers is a great database it's across the whole country, has a lot of newspapers from all sorts of places and that are not necessarily on newspapers.com or any other site. So you definitely want to try out that database that Sue's library has. We have it here at Houston also, so I recognized it when you said it.
Wonderful. Yeah, because we always want to get those usage statistics up.
hmm
Okay. Well, thank
All
you,
right.
Irene. I hope we didn't keep you past your closing time there in Florida.
Oh, no.
Oh, excuse me,
Houston,
Texas.
Houston. Nope, I still got 2 hours left to work.
Excellent. Okay. All right.
All
Well,
right.
thank you once again, and we'll be in touch again soon. And thank you, as always, a wonderful presentation.
Okay. Thank
We
you.
love your library, by the way. We love it.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye,
All right.
everybody.